you very much for being part of the symposium and for arranging the association with the Hellenic Union of Mediators and ОΠΕΜΕΔ. A little introduction about yourself, because it is a different session. That session is, of course, lying separately. So a little introduction about yourself and whatever else you want to tell us about your associations, and then straight to the topic, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Vikram. So once again, I thank you very much on behalf of the Hellenic Union of Mediators, on behalf of the Organism for the Promotion of Alternative Dispute Resolution Methods, on behalf of Nicholas Kanellopoulos, the Secretary General of ΟΠΕΜΕΔ, and me personally. We thank you all very, very much for having given us the opportunity to organize with you this symposium, which I think is very important and instructive, and hopefully it will allow mediators to get some information they most probably do not have about the origin of mediation and about the true nature of alternative dispute resolution methods. As far as I am concerned, my name is Katerinás Kωτσάκη, but I have also a yoga name, which is Parvati, and I prefer to be called Parvati. And I'm the chair of the Hellenic Union of Mediators, created in 2010. Since then, I am the chair, and still I continue to be. I do not know how long I will be able to do the job I am doing, but I can say that the union has evolved very much these last years, especially due to COVID. This might sound strange, but it is true, because COVID has forced, in a sense, us to use Zoom and other platforms to organize events. In that way, mediators coming from all over the world and all over Greece, first of all, which would be easier possibly for them to travel and come to Athens, but still it is not always easy. They have been able, all these mediators and lawyers have been able to follow the 41 lectures I have organized during the period of COVID. The mediators having presented these lectures were Greek well-known mediators and foreign well-known on an international level mediators, among which, as I said before, Ken Klock and many others. And we spoke about many issues regarding mediation, and we have been able to put questions and receive answers. Regarding now the situation of mediation in Greece, I can say that mediation has not expanded as we did hope. And it did not expand for the same reasons for which it has not in the other countries. First, people react to something new, something they consider new, because as I will explain later, alternative dispute resolution methods are not new, but we will come to this again later on. So people are afraid of something new, one. Second, people want, when they have a dispute, they come to the lawyer and they say, look, I do not want only to win the case. I want you to kill the other. So, of course, this is something incompatible with mediation. Another reason is that lawyers are not pro-mediator. pro-mediation, pardon. And I'm sure that this is the case all over the world. It took many years for lawyers to understand that by doing mediation, they would not lose clientele, but on the contrary, their clients being satisfied because of the cost-effective, time-effective, and successful, in most cases, mediation process, they will bring other people as clients. Okay, one day will come when mediators, all mediators will understand this. Yet, there is a sector in Greece where mediation has evolved, and there are many cases submitted to mediation, and these are the family cases, because especially of confidentiality, they prefer to go first to mediation. Another issue, another disposition, legal disposition, which has helped mediation to make some steps, few, forward, is that the new law promulgated in 2019 provides that before going to court, before instigating legal proceedings, and in any case, before the hearing of the case, the litigants must go to a meeting, a first mandatory mediation meeting, as the law calls it, conducted by a mediator, the task of whom is to inform the parties about mediation. The real goal of the law is that during this session, the parties, any person participating, because lawyers are participating, the presence of lawyers of the parties is mandatory in Greece. So the purpose of the law is that they get a taste of what is mediation, that hopefully they understand that it is in the interest of everybody to go to mediation. And at the end of this first session, to go to full mediation. Unfortunately, this was not understood, neither by the people nor by the lawyers. And to my opinion, the responsibility is on lawyers, because people listen to what their lawyers say. And when a lawyer says, oh, this formality is nothing, then you have one lawyer calling the mediator, and thereafter the other lawyer calling the mediator and saying, how long will it last? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? This shows that the purpose is not met. Anyhow, we hope that this will improve shortly. If I may now start my presentation.
Yeah, you should, but actually give me just 10 seconds, because that was a separate session. I just want to put across that please go to mediatorvikram.com and find information about this symposium and other details. I won't take 30 seconds also of more of yours. Please, philosophy and mediation. Yes, Catherine. Parvati.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So, as we all know, philosophy was born and developed, especially in India, Greece, and China. Philosophy has principles which, if followed, could make our life more pleasant, more happy, more productive. I can say that philosophy, most of the philosophical systems and religions teach us that the human being is by nature good, because it was created by the highest power, having created him kind and at the image of the supreme force. So why the human being who is by principle good, honest, kalos, kagathos, as ancient Greek used to say, kalos, good, kagathos, it is ke and added to agathos, which means somebody honest. Why do human beings behave nowadays in the way they do? They have disputes almost every day. They cannot live in peace. They make war. They are not happy. They run after material things, which worth nothing, because somebody can be rich, but if he does not live in peace, first of all, within his family, because many disputes are in the family, if he does not live in peace, and if he does not cultivate himself, his inner self, and the moral values, the material things mean nothing. Now, there are many reasons. We could speak about for many hours about this. There are many reasons which constitute veils covering all the capacity of human being and his real nature, because he feels unsecured. He feels that he will not survive. He feels that he is chased. And all these feels cover his real inner substance and do not give him the opportunity to remember the principles and the big teachings of philosophy and the religions as well. Because the religion, a part of the religion is philosophy. As I said before, starting my presentation, because I thought I had started, is that the alternative dispute resolution methods are considered methods accruing out of the natural law, even if there are no written legal dispositions. Alternative dispute resolution exists. As I said before, they are linked with the inner substance of human beings. Neither the model law of UNCITRAL, nor the European Directive of 2008, nor the civil rights movements in the United States during the decade of 1960, which at the beginning dealt with issues, disputes between the members of the community regarding neighborhood problems, and thereafter expanded. None of this has brought, as I said before, sand into the beach. Alternative dispute resolutions existed since ever, as I said. Let's start. I will start by mentioning the various periods of human history. So, at the time of the cavemen, the disputes were solved exclusively by vigilantism. That is to say that the victim considered that he had the right to take punitive action against anybody having harmed him. Time going by and the human gender evolving, small rural settlements and villages were formed and people learned to live in teams. When living in teams, they started realizing that peaceful life was a must. They started becoming more defensive, also because they stopped having the need to hunt in order to eat and to survive. So they started considering other aspects of life. Little by little, people wanted to solve their dispute in a peaceful way, in a way allowing the relationship to continue between them and the opponent, because when there is a dispute between me and one member of the community, this has an impact on all the community. So they started thinking about what to do to live more peacefully, as I said before. When the dispute arrived to a point where dialogue was not anymore possible, they turned to a third person, who was usually an aged person, respected by the community, trusted by the community, asking for his help to solve the dispute. This third person was called in the villages the shaman or sorcerer. He was the sorcerer today would not be used, but this is how they called him. And he acted according to the circumstances of each case, but using his own intuition, either as conciliator, helping the parties to find themselves the solution of their dispute, or as an arbitrator, making himself a decision. In the first case, he was a mediator. In the second, he was an arbitrator. Although mediation is at present a structured process conducted by mediator, in its core essence, it is diachronic and unchanged. What is a mediator? He is an impartial third person, duly educated, who facilitates two or more antagonist parties to solve out of court a dispute opposing them. What is then the difference between the mediator and the wise man of the village, the shaman or sorcerer, okay, of the villages of Africa or South America, to whom the members of the small communities had and sometimes still have recourse, asking him for help to solve their dispute? To my opinion, there is no difference at all. In the same way, to my opinion, and forgive me if I say to my opinion, but it's true, there is no difference between mediation and what the King of France, Louis IX, used to do by sitting 1 or 2 days per week under a big oak and inviting his citizens to come to him, expose their problem, and help them to solve it. There is no difference with the mediator of the present times, the contemporary mediator. Conciliation and compromise accrue out of natural law, as I said before, and were known since ever by the legislation of all the primitive, but also the contemporary legislation, regardless, I repeat this because it is important, regardless whether there are written legal dispositions or not. And I will revert to this regarding Roman times. Now, the first mediation we can find is in Greek mythology. And I will tell the story of this first mediation. Orestes had killed his mother and her lover, his mother Clytemnestra and her lover Aegisthus, who had killed the father of Orestes, Agamemnon, when he came back from the war of Troy at Mycena. Orestes killed them and he was brought to court in Athens. Thanks to the vote of Athena, the goddess Athena, who presided the court, he was acquitted, but he was discharged. But in spite of that, he was chased by Erinyes. Erinyes were the goddesses of remorse. Remorse. Is it correct, Vikram?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it's okay. I was actually not listening to that word. Yeah.
I will confirm immediately.
You know, I do get a little distracted. You know that.
Yes. So they were the goddesses of remorse, and they chased the people. Orestes was suffering of that. So Athena decided to mediate between him and these goddesses. She went to them and said, look, you are not loved, you are not respected, you are nothing for Athenians. They hate you. Would you like this to change? And instead of being hated, to become loved and respected by Athenians? Previously, she had spoke to the Athenians who agreed, provided they, the goddesses in question, undertook the obligation to stop chasing Orestes. So, Erinyes, these goddesses, thought that it was a unique occasion for them, and there would be no other occasion for them to get rid of the hate of Athenians. They accepted immediately because trust had been created between them and Athena. They believed to their words, to their to her statements. She said, look, okay, you accept, but you undertake the obligation to stop chasing Orestes. They accepted, and thus the matter was closed. This is known to be the first mediation. And since then, when there is a split of votes in a tribunal, when there was a split of votes in the tribunals in Athens, this was called the vote of Athena. It was in favor of the acquitment because it was the vote of Athena. Now, the arbitration. the nature of arbitration as an alternative dispute resolution method is often disputed. There are many professors and mediators who deny the character of arbitration as an alternative dispute resolution method, because the arbitral tribunal, either composed of one or of three members, renders a judgment. It examines witnesses. It examines documents. I believe that arbitration is actually an alternative dispute resolution method for two main reasons. First, the arbitrator or the arbitrators, if they are three, are selected by the parties. Second, arbitration is confidential. Allow me here to open a parenthesis to say that in medieval Europe, the duel was considered an alternative dispute resolution method. Why? Because the persons involved, especially in disputes regarding their honor, they wanted to keep this confidential. And usually duels took place in the night, in the presence of witnesses, but that was it. The two disputing parties, men in general, and one or two witnesses for each side. So when they stopped, when this method was deleted from the usual reaction of the parties, they turned to arbitration because of the confidentiality. I close the parenthesis. The first case of arbitration known by us is the one done by King Solomon in Israel in 1960 before Christ. We all know the story of Solomon, the story of the two prostitutes having appeared before him, disputing about the maternity of a baby. Solomon looked very, very precisely on their face, the expression of their face, the body language in general, with big attention, and he understood. But of course, he had to justify his decision, and he said, look, I know that the best solution is to split the child in two, and each woman takes one part. The real mother said, no, please, no, give it to the other, but let my child live. So Solomon understood who was the mother, and gave the child to her. Was convinced because he had understood through the body language. Now, arbitration in India. Vikram, you be indulgent for me. Okay?
Arbitration, I even say that we don't even use that word on my shows. That's what I keep saying. The whole concept of using it whenever you talk about mediation, for some reason people talk about arbitration. I don't even talk about it. Yeah. So
can I say about arbitration?
Yeah. Please.
Okay. So in India, I feel a little bit shy to speak about India.
No, you must. I will not talk about arbitration in India, so someone maybe should.
So in India, where violence is considered to be contrary to the beliefs of the most important religions, i.e. the Buddhism and Hinduism, arbitration as a more mild way of solving dispute and maintaining peace and love for the other members of the community started to be used before more than 2,500 years before Christ. The arbitration system applied in India was called Panchayat, correct?
Yep.
While the arbitrator was called Panch. All cases, even criminal cases, ranked for arbitration. And the arbitral awards could not be contested before any other court or authority due to the respect attributed to the arbitrators. In the 20th century, Mahatma Gandhi, who referred to Bhagavad Gita as his spiritual dictionary, considered that the non-violent revolt against the colonial oppression is based on the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, the song of Krishna or the song of God, is the most revered Hindu text and has a unique pan-Hindu influence. It is written in Sanskrit and deals with the hesitation of Arjuna. May I tell the story?
Yeah, please. We'll have to, but only thing we have to ask Milan. Milan is his session actually time has started. Milan, is it okay if Catherine goes on for some time? Because his session time has started. Milan, you want to tell us if you want her to go on for a few minutes? Okay, please. Up till he comes in. Yeah, Catherine, please.
So, Bhagavad Gita deals with the hesitation of Arjuna, a prince having as mission to conduct a holy war to protect his tribe against the revendications of another tribe under the guidance of his mentor and cousin Krishna, who was one of the incarnations of God Vishnu and moreover an incarnation of self. When Arjuna noticed that in the adversary camp there were relatives and friends of his, he refused to fight. Krishna explained him that he is compelled to fight, otherwise he will infringe his duty, his dharma, which is to protect the disputed land. The conclusion is that the peaceful confrontation of the facts as well as love step back when there is a dharma to be honored. At the end of my session, I intended to read to you a very unique clause of arbitration contained in the last will of George Washington, but I do not know whether Milan will allow me.
Milan, he's not saying anything. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, please. No, up till he comes in, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much, Milan. So now I would like to speak about the credos and beliefs of Greek philosophers through various well-known quotations. Pythagoras, the Greek philosopher from Samos, advocated metempsychosis, reincarnation. Regarding justice, he used to say, apply justice by means of acts, but also by words. Aristotle, in his book, The Nicomachean Ethics, disallowed the right of revenge. Do not lie, teach Solon, the first legislator in Athens and one of the 7 sages of Greece, promulgating relevant laws punishing liars. Solon advised also that be prudent regarding those having rancor in their heart even if they have a nice appearance. And also, he said that many rich peoples are bad. Wealth should not be exchanged with virtue. Cleobulus, king of the islands of Rhodos, who was another of the 7 sages of Greece, whose quotation, "moderation is everything," is famous, he advocated that rancor must be diluted and make a friend of the enemy. This is exactly one of the principles of mediation, isn't it? Helonas of Sparta, philosopher and legislator, advised, "Be gentle, do not speak bad about your neighbors." Hesiod, the writer and the second most important poet after Homeros in ancient Greece, used to say that the way to badness is easy, but the path towards virtue is long. Thales, the Milesian philosopher and the first among the 7 sages, and the orator Isocrates strongly believed that life will be much more easy if we do not do to others what we dislike them to do to us. The gospel also teaches, do not do to others what you hate yourself. What you hate, they do to yourself. And make peace with adversary the soonest. And also, be happy the peacemakers. I would like now to speak to you about the Sasmos, S-A-S-M-O-S, which is a mediation method having appeared in the island of Creta approximately 3,000 years before Christ, where there was in Creta a harsh tradition, unfortunately still existing, but of course in a lower degree, called vendetta, according to which there was an obligation of revenge. Everyone who was harmed, himself or a member of his family, had the obligation to reciprocate what he or his family have been victim of in order to satisfy the need of revenge, but also the honor of the family. This led to vicious circles which can last for many generations. The vendetta reminds us the rule contained in the Bible, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which is misinterpreted, however, as it will explain in 1 minute. Vendetta exists up to now in the island of Creta, constituting a kind of bloody, brutal self-redress. Okay, I will not go into other details because I would like to speak about all what I have mentioned in my preparation. Though there is no evidence for that, it is believed that simultaneously with the vendetta, in Creta appeared the so-called in Greek sasmos, which is a kind of non-statutory, non-institutional resolution of a dispute by compromise, by conciliation, by mediation. The word sasmos comes out from the Greek verb siachno, or according to the Cretan dialect, siazo. To fix, sasmos is the process where, after a dispute was generated, an usually aged person, respected and appreciated by the local community, a person who has the causi, as we call it, as it is called in Creta, the one who has the ability and the social power, the sartis, The mediator performing sasmos is called the sastis, or conciliator or mediator intervenes between the adversaries seeking to find a compromise solution to their dispute. As at the contemporary times, the sastis met separately. He had caucuses with each party in order to gather as many information as possible to have a clear image of the dispute. This could last for many days, and at some points, when the sastis considered it appropriate, he invited the parties to a dinner. The dinner was usually offered in his house. The parties arrived there. They sat round a table. They did not speak about the dispute anymore because the fact that they had accepted the invitation was considered as an acceptance of the resolution of the dispute. And at the moment when they said cheers, the dispute was considered to be solved. Now, another aspect which could be interesting is that when the person having committed an unlawful act was in prison, the women of the two families arranged for baptisms to be done between children of the two families. Thus, when the one being in jail came out, they could not anymore fight because there were religious links between them.
So, Parvati, should we get Milan in now, or do you want to continue, or should I get him in? Because I don't know. Should I get Milan in, because I just want to check with him if he's all right, because he's got session's got a little.
If you do not mind, Milan can do his presentation and let's continue.
Let me just check, because that's very important, because I always, my sessions always start on time. I have to take his approval because I don't want his session to be cut down. So Milan, what is the thing? Should we continue? Or how do you look at it?
Well, I was under the assumption that I will be beginning at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
But it really depends, how Catherine, how long she wants to continue. I don't know how much time she wants to dedicate to her presentation. Depends on that, if it needs a couple of more minutes, sure, I think that it would be appropriate thing to do, Yeah.
Catherine, you want to just just wrap up the thing and then we'll get Milan in?
Vikram, no, very frankly speaking, it will not take some minutes only, if you allow me to finish my presentation. So let's Milan do his, and if you don't mind.
But then after, we can do continued after that. Perfect. So, okay, thank you very much. And then we'll get you after his session. So